revolve around the query operation. Your multi-value UI elements, your tables, your list UI elements, your F4 help, filtering, sorting. Okay, so all these revolves around the query operation. Now it is time to get into our next operation, and that is read operation. So what is the difference between the query operation and the read operation? Query operation can read multiple records, and also you can apply filtering and sorting. So this is what is the query operation is for. In case of read operation, the read operation can read only single record. It can read only single record. To read this particular single record, you need to pass the primary key of the table. You need to pass the primary key of the table. Okay, right. The query operation method is employee set underscore get underscore entity set. So whereas the read operation method is employee set underscore get underscore entity. Now let's open the DPC extension class to see the method, and let us see how to call that method by using OData service URL. So let me go to SAP GW, and the project is not open. Let me open the project ZB72 underscore EMP. All right. So I'm going to the runtime artifacts to the DPC extension class method. This is our DPC extension class. And now let's come down to see our methods. Now this is the method which we already implemented, employee set underscore get underscore entity set. Now the next method is employee set underscore get underscore entity. This is the method which we need to implement. Now coming to the executing this method. So this method will be called by using a OData service URL. So let me write the OData service URL here. So this is the OData service URL. Right. So whenever you write the base OData service URL followed by the entity set, automatically that entity set underscore get underscore entity set. So this particular method gets executed. Okay, so this is something which we already know. So whenever we want to execute the query operation method, so this is called query operation method, then we just need to write the base OData service URL followed by the entity set name. That's all. So when you keep the entity set name, automatically that entity set underscore get underscore entity set will get called. Right. Next, how to call the get entity method. To call the get entity method, so we know that get entity means it can read only a single record, and this single record it will return when you pass the primary key. So if you write the employee set followed by the round brackets and pass the primary key within the single quotes like this 10001. Now this particular URL, this entire OData service URL will go and call the read operation method, which is nothing but our employee set underscore get underscore entity. So let me show you. I will hit enter, and you can see the error saying that the method employee set underscore get underscore entity. It's not entity set, it's entity. And it is saying not implemented in the data provider class. So from this error, what we need to understand is this URL is calling this method. And the meaning of this error is, it is saying, boss, you have not implemented this method. You have not implemented with the logic of this method. So once you implement, this method turns into black color. So remember, any method is in the black color, that means you have written logic in that method. Okay. So this is in blue color, that means we have not yet written any logic in that method. Okay. So that is what exactly it is saying. So the bottom line is, if you want to execute the getEntity method, then you need to pass the primary key within the single quotes and round brackets. So once again, if I remove this, so this is going to call your query operation method, that is employee set underscore get underscore entity set, and returns all the records. But if you pass the round brackets, and within the round brackets, if you pass the primary key, then this is going to call employee set underscore get underscore entity, which is the read operation method. All right. So now let's go and implement this method. I'm going to the edit mode and select it and click on the redefine method. And now we need to write the logic inside. So here I need to write my logic. So what could be the logic? So here, let us keep a debug point. So I'm going to keep a debug point here. So first let's activate this. I'm going to keep a debug point. Set external debug point. Okay. To return a single record, my dear friends, I need to write the query like select single star from ZB72 underscore employees, where EMP ID space equals to that particular employee ID. So here, in this entire query, the only thing that I don't know is this employee ID. But do you know what happens when you trigger this URL? The moment you trigger this URL, it is calling the OData service. So the OData framework will automatically capture this primary key from this URL, and this primary key will be stored in a OData parameter. So this is called the signature of the method. So in this signature, there is a parameter called IT key tab. It's an internal table. IT stands for internal table. Key tab means it's a table which stores the key. Key means primary key. It's an internal table that stores the primary key or keys. Primary key means a table can have a single primary key. It can have the composite primary keys as well, right? So basically, this IT key tab automatically stores the primary key or keys that are coming as a part of the OData service URL. Now, I will show you this in debug mode. So let me hit this URL once again. I'm hitting this URL. Now we can see that this URL is calling our getEntity method, and that's the reason the debug has stopped. Okay. The debug we have kept at the end method. We have not written any logic. Now I am going to the desktop 3 locals, and I'm going to show you this IT key tab. It's an internal table that stores the key information from your OData service URL. So this one. So this one will be captured inside here, IT key tab. So I will also draw this IT key tab. So IT key tab, it's an internal table, guys. It's an internal table. IT stands for IT underscore key underscore tab, right? Okay. IT key tab contains two columns. So if I double click, I can show you. So it contains two columns. One is the name column, stands for name of the key, and next one is the value column, stands for value of the key. So you can see the name column automatically filled with the employee ID because it notes that for employee entity, the primary key is employee ID. So this particular name column is already filled with employee ID. And the value column filled with 100001. The reason is you have passed 100001 as a primary key. So this particular primary key, the value of the primary key will be stored in the value column automatically. So till here, you have not written any logic. So till here, you have not written any logic. So what is your logic, by the way? Your logic is very simple, pretty simple. You need to write select single star from my table, employee table, where employee ID equals to, and this primary key I need to keep, right? So as of now, the primary key is present. This particular primary key, whatever I have written hard-codedly, so this you need to point out from here. This one you need to point out from the internal table, IT key tab. So to point out this particular value, guys, there are so many ways, okay? So nowadays in ABAP, we got the inline declaration. So you can use inline declaration as well, but I'm going with a very simple way. So this value is present in a IT key tab, which is an internal table, okay? So what I will do, I will read this value from this internal table and keep that in a structure, okay? I will just read this particular value and keep that in a structure. So the structure name, I will call this as ls key tab. ls underscore key underscore tab is the structure name. So I will shuffle this contents into here. So employee ID come here and the 100001 comes here. So in my logic, I will write where employee ID equals to, employee ID equals to. So now my employee ID is present in this particular structure. So I will write ls underscore key underscore tab. So which is my structure hyphen this second field. Second field is nothing but value column. So I will write value. That's all. Got my point? So simply declare a work area or structure of this internal table and then shuffle its contents. That's all. Okay. Right. So let's go and implement the logic. So I'm removing the debug point, not required anymore. Right. So I'm going to declare ls key tab, ls underscore key underscore tab. So ls key tab is what? ls key tab should be a work area or the structure of this particular internal table, right? So let me go to the IT key tab. This is IT key tab, guys. So its data type is this one. Its data type is this one. But I don't want this data type because this is a table data type. So what you can do, you can double click on this. First of all, save this method. Now you will find something called line type. Line type is nothing but work area type. So copy this type, go back and declare here. So type space this one. So whatever I copied is the line type. Line type means one line. One line is nothing but your work area, your structure, single record that you can store. Okay. But if you clearly observe the difference between this particular type and this particular type, the only difference is here you have T, the letter T. here you have the letter S. So here T stands for table, S stands for structure. Table can store multiple records, structure can store single record. Okay, so that is the only difference. All right, so now ls key tab becomes a structure or work area of this table. Now I'm going to read this content and store that into this work area. So how do I do that? So this can again can be done in multiple ways, but I'm going with the read table statement. So read table it key tab, it underscore key tab means I'm reading this it key tab table and I'm storing the result into ls key tab with key. Name of the key is equals to empid. So if you see the condition that I kept, read this it key tab table and keep the result into ls key tab. So I'm asking, I'm instructing to read from this table and keep the result into this table. On which condition? The condition is with key, name of the key is employee ID. So wherever the name is having the employee ID, so read that entire row and keep that row in this ls key tab. That is what I exactly told. With key name equals to employee ID. Now we got the result in ls key tab. So I can write select single star from ZB72 underscore my employees table, where empid equals to, so now my employee ID is present in ls key tab hyphen value. Now this particular statement, select single star from this table where employee ID is this, will give me the single record. That is fine. But that single record will not be sent as a response to the front end. Okay, so even if this execute this particular statement, I will not get that single record into my front end. To get that record into the front end, to send the record to the front end, you need to keep this result. You need to keep the result of this query into a returning data parameter. So if you see the description for returning data parameter, so you will find ER underscore entity. ER stands for exporting record. Record means one single record. And even if you see the data type of this, the data type is created by the MPC class. The data type name is TS underscore employee. TS means, yes means structure, TS, table structure. Okay, so it's a structure of employee. Structure of employee means it can hold only one record of employee table, right? And that is what exactly we also need. Anyway, so wherever you find the returning data parameter, so copy that parameter and keep your result into that parameter. So select single start from the table. So after selecting the single record from the table, so keep the result into ER entity. So when you keep the result into the ER entity, since ER entity is a returning data parameter, it returns the data to the front end. Okay, so that's all. So we can write this select statement in a if condition. So execute this select statement only when your work area is not empty. So when if ls underscore key underscore tab, when my work area, when this particular structure is not empty, is not initial. So not initial means not empty. So when ls key tab is not initial, then only you execute this particular statement. Okay, this is just a good to have statement. So even if you do not have the statement, that is fine, but just safe side, I'm just checking whether this is having the primary key record or not. So if it is not initial, then only we are doing this. So let's activate this. So this got activated. Now if you refresh this URL, you should get the employee with 100001 complete details. So now I can see all Amit data. Okay, right. So change the primary key and see if you are getting all the people's data. 100002 Anil. Now let me see 100003 Babji. Yeah. Okay. So my dear friends, whenever you want to display the single employee data into the front end, then you need to execute your base OData service URL / employee set within the round brackets primary key. Now let me show you where this scenario is exactly used in the real time. I'm going to our application again, back to our application. So this is your employee management application, right? So here I have seen the first employee Rupesh. So I understand he's team lead. So I want to see more information about Rupesh. I will click the record. I will click on this Rupesh record. The moment I click on this record, you can see I navigated to the second view, and in the second view, complete Rupesh data is there. So this entire thing is Rupesh data only. And even in the information tab, so there are various tabs. In the information tab, you can see complete Rupesh data has been displayed. So how this is done? This is done by calling this URL. When you call that URL, you will get only Rupesh data. So this data is displayed in the front end like this. So here also. Now let us see how to call this particular URL from SAP UI5 application level. Okay, right. So by end of today's class, we are going to achieve this entire scenario. That is, when you click on the table record, so you will navigate to the second view, and in the second view, you will display this details of the selected record. Okay, all right. Now all of you observe, this particular table, as of now, it is not enabled with the selection. So you can see when I keep my mouse on the table, I am not getting any hand symbol. So whenever the table is enabled for the selection, for the pressing, then only you will get the hand symbol. I am not getting hand symbol, but whereas, so here in the developed application, you can see wherever I am keeping the mouse, I am getting the hand symbol, and also the color on the hovered row, it is getting changed, right? So how to enable the table rows for pressing or selection? Can anybody tell me how this particular hand symbol can come? So this is something which we already done as a part of F4 help functionality. So in the F4 help also, initially the table rows were not selectable, not pressable, but after writing some property, so this particular hand symbol is coming. Anybody remember what is this property which gives the hand symbol?
Is it context? Oh,
no.
Sorry.
Sir, navigation is equal to true.
Huh?
Navigation is equal to true. Type navigations.
Type equal to navigation. Who is this, by the way?
Amit.
Yep. So type equal to navigation or type equal to active. So anything you can write. So anyway, that's the correct answer. So whoever gives the answer binding context. So binding context is something if you want to read the data. I'm not asking to read the data. I just want the rows to be active first. So if my question is when I press the row, how can I read this value? Then the binding context answer should come. Okay. All right. So let's go to the view, and I'm going to the view one. So let me minimize this panel, entire panel. All right. So inside the table, I need to go to my column list item. Column list item means a row, and I can give type equal to active. I can give type equal to active, guys, or you can also give type equal to navigate. I will show you the difference. So now when I keep the mouse, you can see the hand symbol is coming. Okay, so you can just minimize this for a while. Now you can see the hand symbol is coming. Okay, let's keep this panel collapsed by default. Otherwise, it just little every time I need to collapse it. Expanded false. Okay. So basically, the type equal to active will make your rows selectable. That means you can press your rows, and on the press action, you can do something. Okay. So similarly, instead of type equal to active, you also have something called type equal to navigation. So that also basically same, one and the same. There is a slight difference. I will show you what is that slight difference. Now here also you will get the hand symbol, the rows will be selectable. But the difference is you will get an arrow mark at the end. This arrow mark according to SAP UI5 indicates that in the next page there is more information about these fellows. So that is the meaning of giving this arrow mark. Arrow mark indicates, so this can navigate to the second page, to the next page, and you can see more information about Amit, Anil and Babji. Wherever you want, you can click. So that is the meaning of navigation. So type equal to navigation, type equal to active, both does the same. Type equal to active will make your rows selectable. Navigation also makes your rows selectable, but type equal to navigation shows this arrow symbol indicating that there is more information about these employees in the next page. So you can click and see the more information. That is the meaning. Okay, right. So normally in real time we use navigation only. Now let's assign the press action. So press equal to on press maybe row. Let me see on press row is already there or not. Otherwise we need to change the method name. On press row is already there. On press we'll write employee row maybe. Okay. Now let's copy this and go to the controller to write our logic. So I will write the logic here itself. Okay. On press row, I have written the logic here. Fine. Now what is our ultimate aim? Our ultimate aim is whatever the row that I clicked, not clicked, maybe pressed. So whatever the row I pressed, that particular row's information I need to display in the second page. So this is our ultimate aim of the scenario, right? The way I'm clicking on any of them, so it is navigating to the second page and I'm displaying all the details here. Okay. So this scenario I'm dividing into two parts for your easy understanding. Okay. So part one is whatever the row that you clicked, I will display the details of this employee below itself. So here I will create a simple form, and in the simple form I'm going to display the details of the person whom you clicked, whom you pressed. So in the same page. If you understand how to display in the same page, then probably you will understand how to display in the next page also. Okay, right. So for that, what I'm going to do, so I will go to the view. So below the table, I'm going to create a simple form. It's a simple form. I will write editable false because I'm going to display the data. I'm not editing it. So label text equal to employee ID. I'm going to take text. So let me copy this. This is employee name. This text, employee designation. Okay, so I have taken a form. So at the bottom, I have taken a form. So you can see this is a simple form. Okay. Now let me run this application. So now you can see the table is there. The form is there at the bottom. But the form is showing only the labels. It is not showing any text, obviously, because we have written labels, but the text UI element does not have any text property. So even it has the text property, I cannot display anything because I don't know which row he is clicking, right? So this text, even though the text property is there, it will be blank. All right. So I have given a text property, but absolutely it's just empty. So let us provide a small margin class as well. The UI tiny margin top. All right. So no difference in the output because I just added the text property, but even the text is empty. So the output is one and the same. What happened? Anything that I missed out? It should give the output. So whenever you get a blank screen, hit F12 and see the console. So in the console, you can see I don't find any errors. These are not errors. Okay, so the loading time it has taken a little more because it's a trial web ID, trial business application studio. Okay, now all of you keep your 100% attention here. If I click on Amit, so this form should show me Amit data. If I click on Anil, then this form should show me Anil data. If I click on Babji, then this form should show me Babji data. So this is the requirement. Okay. So how to do this? This can be done in a very, very beautiful way that was given by SAP. So let me first complete the coding and then I will explain. So to complete the coding, I need to ask one question from you. See, basically to display this employee data, you know that I need to call this URL, right? I need to call this URL, correct? Because this URL only gives me the single employee data, right? Now to call this URL, can anybody tell me in this entire URL, what is the one that is changing? What is the changing maybe the data value in this entire URL?
Employee ID.
Employee ID, exactly, right? So this particular employee ID, I need to get it from the row that you are selecting. So if I am clicking this row, I need to get this employee ID. If I am clicking this row, I need to get this employee ID. So can any one of you tell me how to get the employee ID from the row that you are clicking. How to get any data value from the row that I am clicking. So when I click a row, I can read this one, I can read this one, I can read this one, I can read this one. Anything I can read. How to read it? I think 10 minutes back, I told the answer of this also.
Context or this.
From the binding context of the row.
Yeah.
Okay, so always remember row has a powerful concept called binding context. A binding context means it's an object that stores the data that is binded to that particular row. Okay, right. So we already assigned the press action. So the press action is on press employee row. So when you press the row, you will receive a O event object. So the code is already here. The code is already at the above. So O event dot get source. The O event dot get source returns what? Can anybody tell me what O event dot get source returns? O event dot get source returns the source of the event. Okay, source of the action. So you are clicking this row. So obviously source of the action is nothing but this row. Okay. For example, if I am clicking a button and if I write O event dot get source, then O event dot get source. See, always remember O event dot get source definition is it returns the UI element which trigger that particular action. Okay, if I am clicking on a button and I have written O event dot get source, then it returns the button UI element. Here I am pressing on what? I am pressing on the row of a table. So O event dot get source returns the row of the table. Clear? So here O event dot get source means the row. A row dot get binding context. So row dot get binding context means get me the binding that is done to this row. So from that binding, entire binding, I want only the employee ID. Okay, so whatever the row that you clicked, you are getting the data binded to this row. Out of the entire binded data, you are getting only the employee ID. So you got the employee ID. Now I am going to write one magical statement. All of you observe. I will assign a ID for this simple form. I will call this as ID simple form. I will take this by ID. I will point out to this simple form, and there is a statement called bind element, and I will bind this particular path. So bind element employee set of the primary key. So primary key, this is a hard-coded primary key. So remove that. All of you observe how to remove a hard-coded value and replace that with a variable. So this is employee ID. So I already read the employee ID into this variable employee ID. So copy that and paste it here. But still this comes under hard coding only. So employee set within the single quotes EMP ID. So this is as good as writing EMP ID here. You write EMP ID here, then what happens? There is no resource. See, it is saying resource not found for the segment employee, means there is no resource with this employee ID. Okay. So you can't give single quotes EMP ID, because within the single quotes, if you are giving EMP ID, then it assumes that just like 100001 is an employee ID, it thinks like EMP ID is also a kind of an employee ID. No, right? So here we need to use concatenation operator. So remember, whenever there is a variable, we need to use concatenation. So how to use concatenation? Most of the people who don't know JavaScript, they feel confusion here. I will give you a shortcut. So the shortcut is very simple. first replace the variable in this hard-coded value. First step. Step number 2, keep plus button on both sides of the variable. That is step number 2. Step number 3, keep double quotation on both sides of plus. This is step number 3. That's all. Okay. So technically what is happening here? So during the execution, it takes the value from double quotation to double quotation. So this is double quotation starts, double quotation ended here. First double quotation to double quotation. So it takes this, okay. And after that, plus means concatenation with employee ID. So means employee ID is 100001, for example. And after that again double quotation to double quotation. So double quotation to double quotation is this one. So it will place here. So indirectly this is forming this path. Okay. All right. So this by ID dot bind element we have done. What is this bind element? You will understand. Just wait. And in the view, I will just write binding with employee ID. I will write binding with name. I will write the binding with the designation. Now save it and refresh. So initially I did not click any row, so this is empty, that is fine. Now I am clicking Amit. Now you can see Amit data is coming here. I am clicking Anil, so you can see Anil data is coming here. I am clicking Babji, you can see Babji data is coming here. So how this magic happened, how this is coming? Now let us go and understand. Bind element. So the syntax of bind element is model name arrow mark slash entity set name, entity set within the round brackets, single quotes, and primary key. So this is the syntax of bind element. Bind element. So what this bind element will do, let us understand. First of all, syntax. So model name. So let me copy this bind element statement. So this is a bind element statement. So let me keep it here. Now you check from bind element. Okay, you forget about this part. So you see this bind element. Now here inside the bind element, do I retain any model name? Arrow mark? No. So no model name. No model name means which model? Can anybody tell me? No model name means which model? Huh?
OData models.
OData model. So OData model means it points to what? OData model points to what?
Default model. No name
OData
model.
service, base OData service URL, right? So the base OData service URL comments it here. Okay. So your base OData service URL slash and then employee set of employee ID. So indirectly what you hit, indirectly you are hitting this URL. Indirectly you are hitting this URL, isn't it? So did you understand? I'm hitting this URL, that's all. So basically bind element is hitting this get entity URL. Okay. And once it hits the URL, what are you getting? You are getting this data. You are getting this data. And immediately in the same statement you are saying, whatever the data that you got by hitting this URL, you bind the data to this form, to this simple form. What is this one? This by ID, IDSF. What is IDSF? It's a simple form. So basically the entire meaning of the statement is simple form dot bind element of this URL, means you hit this URL, whatever the data you got, you bind the data to the simple form. Okay. So when you hit this particular row, what happened? You call the URL. So you call the URL and also you said whatever the data you got, bind it to this simple form. Now in the simple form, so this is my simple form. The simple form is having EMP-ID, name, designation, bindings. Now what is EMP-ID? So whatever is EMP-ID pointing to at this moment, that is EMP-ID. So that is the story of read operation. Very simple and a intelligent mechanism that SAP UI5 has followed with the bind element approach. Getting my point? So whatever you click, the data will change seamlessly. So data is, it's hitting the backend, getting the data and immediately showing that in a simple form. So binding is a very, very powerful concept in SAP UI5. Very powerful. Okay, fine. So now you understand that if you want the data to be displayed in a form, so basically we need to use bind element. So point out to the form and then do bind element, right? So similarly, we can, when you navigate to the second view, to the entire view also we can do bind element. To the entire view also I can do bind element, or to this simple form also I can do bind element. But here there is one problem. The problem is here to do the bind element we need employee ID. You are in the view 1 and you are binding also in the view 1. You are doing bind element also in the view 1. So you can get the employee ID and do the bind element here itself. Here itself. But what is our actual requirement? Our actual requirement is I do not want the data to be displayed in the view 1. I want the data to be displayed in the view 2. So we know that views are private in nature. That means by standing in the view 1 controller, I cannot point to a simple form that is present in the view 2. Okay, so you may say point out to the simple form that is present in the view 2 and do bind element. No, not possible. Why not possible? Because views are private in nature. You cannot point out to any UI element that is present in the view 2. Then what is the option that you have? The option that I have is I need to transfer my employee ID from view 1 to the view 2 controller. View 1 controller to the view 2 controller. So basically I need to send my primary key from view 1 to the view 2. Now just assume the primary key reached the view 2. If the primary key reached the view 2, can't you do bind element again? Yes, I can do. To do the bind element, what do you need? In the entire statement, tell me what do you need? In the line number 73, what is the only thing that you need? Employee ID. Do you agree with me? The only thing that I need is employee ID. So if I can send this employee ID from view 1 to the view 2, my job is done. My job is done. I can create another simple form in my view 2 and I can do the same statement. This by ID, my simple form dot bind element over. Okay. So now the rest of the story is how to transfer the primary key from one view to the other view. So this is little interesting. So please stay tuned. It won't take more than 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm commenting this line because my actual requirement is not to show the data here. So I'm removing the simple form. My actual requirement is I need to navigate to the second view and there I want to display the data. So let me write the code for the navigation. So you already know how to navigate from one view to the other view. So you need your router, this dot get owner component dot get router dot nav to. So did I shown this ever, guys? I think yes, right? So we navigated from one view to the other view. So whenever you want to navigate from one view to the other view, so you need to call your router. So router, you can get it from the component.js. So this .getOwner component means component.js. Ask your component.js to give you router, that is by saying get router. And now tell to the router, hey Mr. Router, navigate to. So navigate to what? So where do you want to navigate? You want to navigate to the second view. So give your second view's route name. Okay, so route view 2. Now when you click on the row, you will be navigating to the second view. All of you observe. So I click on this and I am in the view 2. In the view 2, I will keep the same simple form that I deleted from here. So I deleted this simple form from here. I will cut this. I will go to the view 2. And in the content area, so I will just keep my same simple form. I need to add the library XML ns equal to sap.ui.layout